The world's first flying car, a breakthrough example of American innovation created by Dr. Carl Dietrich. DARPA, the Defense Department's Advanced Research Projects Agency, the catalyst and money behind decades of American innovation, from space to the internet and beyond. And MIT, one of the world's leading intellectual incubators of entrepreneurial innovation. Carl Dietrich, MIT Sloan Dean David Schmittlein, and DARPA Director Arati Prabhakar join us to discuss the future of American innovation.
This is CEO Global Foresight with Marianne Kane, where innovations, cutting-edge trends, and CEO Foresight come together on the future.
Welcome to CEO Global Foresight and our special on American innovation. I'm Marianne Kane here with the Dean of MIT Sloan, Dave Schmittlein. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you.
I wanted to begin the program with the school's mission, which basically is to develop innovative leaders to improve the world. How do you develop and teach innovation?
Yeah. You know, you start by putting it in the mission statement, I must say. A number of other schools of management have chosen to bring that sense of innovation into their mission statement, and I think with good reason. So schools of management are more about entrepreneurship, more about transformational leadership in organizations than they used to be. You know, it used to be that you maybe get an MBA and go out and work for a large firm, be a product manager or a manufacturing manager. There is much more an expectation now that people who come out of these kinds of programs are able really to lead organizations into very new kinds of environments or to lead new organizations in the first place. And so among the things that we do is we give them experience with respect to the way that new organizations are becoming formed, are going through the growth pains of, young adolescents and so on. It gives people not only knowledge, but it gives them confidence. It gives them a sense that they are really able to be principled, innovative leaders who improve the world.
Now, how important is American innovation to our global competitiveness?
You know, it's hugely important. You know, it's become much more important over the last decades, but it's been important throughout this nation's history. We have created new industries, we've created new opportunities for communities and for individuals, and we've literally changed the world with respect to the ways that products are created, the ways services are created, and the world has come to the United States and seen it as a leader to a large degree because of the way that we've led in innovation. And so it's hugely important.
As you look at the sectors of industry in the United States, are there particular sectors that you foresee being driven by breakthrough innovation, and also that the U.S. would have a leadership role in?
Yeah, you know, fortunately for the United States, there are more than one or two. So just to use a few as key examples, the United States continues to have extraordinary innovation and leadership in life sciences. And we're not narrowly talking about pharmaceuticals or surgical techniques, although those are part of the story, but devices that help extend people's lives are an important part of this. Diagnosis and testing in life sciences is another area where the United States continues to lead. So if you look at life sciences very broadly, it's an area where the United States does very, very well. Another example of a setting in which the U.S. does very well is information technology, big data, computing, and so on. There really are no other countries in the world that would be serious competitors to the breadth and depth of the United States leadership in those kinds of areas. And if you look at the spill-on effects of that kind of innovation, that kind of expertise, the United States' lead in energy, in some respects, comes out of information technology. It's the ways that we manage electric grids, for instance. And in another setting, our opportunities in food and water have a lot to do with how we understand the use of information technology and big data to better manage food crops, to better manage water resources. And so information technology isn't just creating computer programs for themselves, it's creating leadership for the United States in a whole variety of sectors. Another example where the United States leads is in the human-computer interface, or if you want to say the virtualization of experience. Certainly you know that that's been hugely important for the U.S. economy.
Now, as you look at the global competitiveness out there and look at it going forward, what hotspots do you see and emerging capitals of innovation?
There are some places that we pay attention to that are doing some interesting things. People like to point to China, and there are aspirations certainly in China for leadership, at least going forward, in innovation. We think about American universities, of course, as being one of the places where innovation is stimulated, and China thinks of innovation in the same way. So the two leading universities in Peking, or in Beijing, Peking University and Tsinghua University, are right across the street from each other. And the whole area around those universities is now kind of an innovation park that is considered in China to be the place where innovative ideas are supposed to be coming out of universities and turned into new companies and so on. That's a very interesting development that's taken place over about the last 15 years.
Education is really the key to innovation, and I just wonder, are you seeing globally, besides China, some really emerging smart practices at the university level to instill and to develop innovation and entrepreneurship?
You know, I think there is dedication. I think there is a lot of attempts to emulate, to try to copy what the United States is doing in this regard. If you look at innovation centers in the United States that are university-based, you tend to think of the Northeast and of Northern California. I mean, there are other areas too, but those are really the two places that come to mind initially. And so if you look around the world, a lot of what you see is an attempt to copy some of that, or at least to be similar to that. Cambridge University in England has a great engineering school. What you see around it tends to look a little bit like what you see around MIT or what you see around Stanford. In Russia, there is a goal in a suburb of Moscow called Skolkovo to build an innovation hub around some new graduate university that, again, attempts as best it can to look a bit like an MIT or like a Stanford. And so around the world, there is a great deal of attention being paid to innovation hubs. You know, innovation doesn't just happen every old place by any old individual. It tends to happen in clusters. So there is a goal that governments have to create these kinds of clusters in Bangkok, in Singapore, and so on, and to a great degree by trying to look similar to the way those clusters look right here in the U.S.
You know, this is such a success story here at MIT and MIT Sloan. Just an incredible number of very successful entrepreneurial businesses have come out of here. iRobot, for instance, Boston Dynamics. I could go on and on. What is MIT Sloan and also MIT itself? What are they doing right? And I wonder if there are some key things that could be learned by other universities and by our own government to foster innovation.
I think it's seductive but wrong to look at individual courses or majors or even individual professors as the key to this, because a number of places have courses in entrepreneurship, for instance, and some of those at other places are taught by perfectly reasonable people. What distinguishes MIT from a number of those other settings is very low boundaries across the university, honestly very low boundaries. People wander across campus all the time, and they don't in other universities. Here, it happens all the time, and it's really in the water of what we do. There's another element to MIT, in particular in the Sloan School, that matters, and that is learning by doing, learning by practice. Becoming entrepreneurial, driving innovation, it's a messy activity. You have to be confident, and you have to be able to see things as materially different than the way they are now. It's almost the opposite of management itself. Management you think of as being all about efficiency. Innovation is all about inefficiency. So you have to run against a number of the ideas that other schools of management are all about. But if I can say just one more thing about the broader MIT context, which is very hard for a place to copy. MIT is not a university. What do you think of a university as being? So a number of people would say a university is a place where an individual, say a student, can develop themselves as a person, and where faculty create smart ideas. That's not really what MIT is about. MIT, even further, is about, yes, individual opportunity, but it's about creating people who will change the world in some way. That external focus on changing the world, both for students and through the ideas that are produced is distinct to the sense of an institute that MIT has of itself. You know, I've been part of great universities in other cities, and a university has a very broad mission, but it's not that mission.
Very interesting.
Change the world, invent the future. If you ask, you know, the leadership of the University of Michigan, Columbia University, and so on, is invent the future your mission? How much do we want American universities to embrace that kind of purpose? That'll tell you a lot about how far down the path of innovation coming out of American universities we're likely to go.
That is critical. Dave, thank you so much for being my guest. It's been a pleasure. Coming up next, the world's first flying car, the Transition, and the next generation, the TFX. The breakthrough innovations of Carl Dietrich. Welcome to CEO Global Foresight and our special on American innovation. I'm Marianne Kane here with Carl Dietrich. Welcome, Carl.
Thanks very much for having me.
Carl, you are one of the world's most innovative CEOs. Your team basically created the world's first flying car. Now you have a new concept, the TXF. And I'm basically wondering the capabilities behind this concept. I understand it has vertical takeoff and landing. It's a green car. So tell us about it. What is the potential here?
TFX is really the vision that we have for what is achievable today physically. And it's a very exciting concept. It has vertical takeoff and landing capability. It can drive like a normal car. And because it's integrated with the FAA's next-gen air traffic control system, it can automatically avoid other air traffic and get you to where you want to go, potentially more safely than driving today.
That's absolutely amazing. What is the time frame in terms of the development and the delivery? What is the cost?
The TFX is a long-term project. We're looking at 8 to 10 year technology development and integration program, and then production after that. So it's a project that we're very excited to get underway soon, though.
You know, the global press is fascinated by the fact this is a plug-in hybrid electric green car. The significance and the potential of this.
The fact TFX has the potential to be sustainable is something that we're really excited about. The vertical takeoff and landing is really enabled by the high power density of electric motors and modern battery packs that really didn't exist 10 years ago. With that, we couple an engine that can run on biofuels, and we can make a fully sustainable personal transportation system that can provide both an increased level of safety and an increased level of convenience.
So Carl, this means you don't have to drive to the airport in your flying car in order to get to a runway and take off. You just need, is it 100 feet diameter space in order to get a vertical liftoff?
That's correct. Yeah, the ability of the vehicle to take off and land vertically opens up a whole new realm of possibilities where you can imagine people setting up landing zones in corners of a parking lot, things of that nature. And it just opens up the space so much more to allow these vehicles to become a much bigger part of society than vehicles that have to take off and land at airports that are far away.
And I understand the idea is it's a 4-seater, so it's also could be a family flying car.
That's the idea, yes. The vehicle, we want the vehicle to be able to carry people and their loved ones wherever they want to go and to be used like a car.
Now this is sort of the next generation on the original flying car, your Transition, which I understand is going to be on the market for sale in 2015. When you introduced the Transition, once again, it was like the shot that was heard around the world, something that no one was able to achieve, a flying car, in 100 years. So if you would share with our viewers the potential of the Transition and the special characteristics that it has.
Sure. The Transition we think of as really a proof of process. It's the first vehicle that can convert between flying and driving modes in less than a minute. It drives like a normal car. It will fit inside a standard construction single car garage, and it flies like a normal light aircraft. Now you still do have to be a pilot in order to operate a Transition vehicle, and the big step that we're looking to make in going from the Transition to TFX is we're looking to make it easier for the public to fly their own vehicle without going through all of the rigorous flight training that pilots have to go through today to operate a transition.
And with the transition, so cool, you can park it in your garage, but it also operates on unleaded gas, so you can just go into the gas station and fill her up, right?
Absolutely, yeah. The transition will drive down the road and gas up just like your normal car.
It's amazing. As I said, engineers, scientists basically try to achieve what you and your team achieved over the course of 100 years. So bottom line, what was the breakthrough? What made the difference?
Well, I think it comes down to a few different things. Certainly more advanced technologies are around and available today. Carbon fiber, high power density certified aircraft engines, glass cockpit avionics that provide the operator an enhanced level of situational awareness. GPS, the global positioning system that lets you know where you are. I remember when I was learning how to fly myself, one of the most stressful things about it is there are no street signs up there. You get up there and if you're flying over unfamiliar territory, it's very hard to know where you are. Well, today that's really not an issue at all. So there are lots of things like that that have kind of built up the infrastructure and made it possible for humanity to take this step in a way where the network is there to support this leap forward.
Such breakthrough innovation. I wonder, lessons learned on your part, advice that you would give to other entrepreneurs who, like you, have a dream. Yours was to basically create a flying car. What have you learned? What critical mass do you need to reach in order to achieve your goals?
I wouldn't say that we've achieved our goals yet. I would say that we're in process of achieving our goals. And I think that that entrepreneurs should always have that attitude. It's not what we've done, it's what we have yet to do.
It's the future.
It's what we are working on right now that's of significance. And I think that the way that companies fail, that entrepreneurial companies fail, is founders give up. You start to think that, oh, maybe this isn't the best opportunity, maybe it's time to move on to something else. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with giving up. But in essence, that's what it comes down to, and that's why companies fail. So, and there's nothing wrong with that, but we are very committed to this vision of making the flying car actually happen. And I think that in order to actually make something succeed, you need that persistence and the perseverance, because it will not be easy. There are countless obstacles that will pop up, and you just have to be willing to do what it takes to work through them.
Carl, what was it like the day that you and your team went into a room with venture capitalists and basically said, we have a dream, we want to build a flying car, we need X amount of money, $1 million, whatever. What was that like?
Well, that's interesting, because I still do that. I'm doing that all the time.
It's a way of life.
It's a way of life, and I think for most entrepreneurs, that's the way that it is. And there is a certain struggle in terms of, because in particular for Terrafugia, the idea of a flying car has been around for such a long time, and it's one that, you know, it's part of pop culture almost. It's kind of science fiction. And what we need to do is bring people up to speed with the state of technology and show folks that this actually can be achieved today, and it doesn't have to be science fiction. We can turn this into science fact.
Carl, what is the environment like for innovation in the United States? How supportive is it? And I wonder, if you look around the globe, how competitive we are for a company like yours.
It would be extremely difficult to do what we are doing at Terrafugia, I think, in any other country that I have visited. The United States has a unique environment, and in particular, there are certain hubs of entrepreneurship in the United States. Boston is one of them, where the network is there to support people who are willing to take risks, who are willing to try things where there's no guarantee of success, but where the potential outcome of success could be globally game-changing. And that is something that I think, while I wouldn't say it's unique to the United States, it's much more pervasive in the United States and in these hubs of entrepreneurship that exist, Silicon Valley, the Boston area, New York, in certain hubs, and that is a very powerful thing. And that's one of the reasons why Terrafugia is coming out of the United States.
Very important point. Carl, thank you so much for being my guest. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up next, DARPA, the Defense Department's Advanced Research Projects Agency, a key to the future of American innovation. Arati, welcome to our program on innovation. I wanted to start by asking you the mission of DARPA.
We were founded when Sputnik was launched in 1958, and at that time our country recognized, as we do now, that technology is a cornerstone of our national security. We didn't want to go through that kind of technological surprise again, and so DARPA was created to prevent that kind of surprise. We've done that by creating our own surprises over 5.5 decades, and that's still the business that we're in today.
Let's talk about some of the breakthrough innovation programs that you have underway, starting with space.
Absolutely. Space is such an important asset for what we need militarily, but of course commercially as well. Phoenix is a great example of a dream we have, which is to restructure the cost for being in space. It's such an important part of what we do militarily. It's an important part of our civilian lives as well, if you think about the communications capabilities, the imaging capabilities that we've all come to be very dependent on from space. But it's enormously costly. And Phoenix is an attempt to restructure and rethink how we build capabilities in the geosynchronous orbit. Right now, the only way we know to do that is to build a complex satellite and launch it up to that very high altitude. But Phoenix says, gee, can we place a very sophisticated robotic satellite in geo, and can it find a way to harvest the unused components from dead satellites in the graveyard orbit? Can it cooperatively harvest, for example, these enormous apertures that are part of the huge expense of getting to that high altitude? And then can we combine those with small satellites that are sent up and build our own geosat in a way that we think could be far more cost effective?
That is amazing. You have so much going on, so much R&D, so much innovation. What excites you the most right now? What do you see as the biggest impact, possibility of innovation for this nation?
We're fortunate to have a lot of answers to that question. Let me mention two that I think are particularly interesting. We have a long history in information technology and materials and electronics, and each of those has vibrant new chapters. But we're starting now to see very powerful technologies with roots in the biological sciences, and I think that's extremely promising. One area is engineering biology, where our ability now to engineer cells to produce new kinds of materials opens a space to explore that I think is going to be extremely fertile for a long time. A very different dimension has to do with what I think will be a huge new chapter in the information technology realm. For many decades, we've been building the tools for computing and communications and storage and all the information technology, the bath that we now live in. But now we're achieving a scale of information that has its own quality, a scale of big data, if you like, which has so many different dimensions. It's all the ways that human activity is captured and translated into bits. It's video, it's all kinds of personal information about how our bodies are functioning. It's everything that's available on the web in all its myriad forms. And as we start now looking at that mass of data, I think the number of insights that we're going to be able to draw from that, I think it's going to be of a quality that makes for a completely new chapter in the information story.
Fascinating. How about robotics? There's a lot of investment there and a lot of breakthrough products. The LS3 It looks like a dog. I know it has computer vision. It's supposed to be, according to The Economist, the largest land robot. The cheetah robot that can run on a treadmill 30 miles per hour.
Phenomenal speed, right?
I mean, what's next, and what does this mean for the military?
Well, one of the things that's next is in our DARPA Robotics Challenge that we're running right now. The challenge there is to come up with robotic capability where robots can deal with a human-constructed environment. Think about humanitarian aid or disaster relief scenarios for Fukushima as a recent example. Here we have situations in buildings or constructed environments where it's no longer safe for people to go, but for robots to be able to navigate stairs and turn knobs and work in a mechanical environment designed for human beings. Those are pretty sophisticated tasks. They're not the things that we've designed robots to do in the past. So we're starting to just see another explosion of innovation as people go after this new set of challenges.
You know, in a sense, DARPA is the greatest risk taker in the world. I wonder how you are able to manage such high-risk decisions for such huge payoffs. And I'm thinking about the hypersonic jet. I understand there are some thinking that it can basically go at 20 Mach and go from New York to LA in 12 minutes, which would be great. But just how you manage this high-risk area.
You know, taking risk is inherent in the business of reaching for big impact. And we try to do everything that could have a big impact and does not entail a lot of risk. Those are great things, but you run out of those pretty quickly, and then you have to take risk if you're going to expose yourself to the opportunity for significant impact. And historically, DARPA has done that. It doesn't mean that every project succeeds. Taking risk means that a lot of things actually don't work. That's inherent in the business that we're in. But if you place a portfolio of bets and you're really careful about balancing that portfolio, every element can be risky and a number of things can fail, but the things that succeed blow the lid off their area, right? And then those become the big steps forward in capability.
Arati, thank you so much for joining us for this special.
My pleasure.
We'd like to thank our viewers. We hope that you have a great week.